Today I'm going to talk about scales again. And the reason is I think we underestimate how important scales are in the daily life of a musician. It's easy to not perfect scales and focus instead on scale-like passages in the context of a particular piece of music. But if this is all you do, your technique is ultimately going to be limited. Scale passages are in virtually all music from the common practice period. Thus, if you know your scales, you can simply plug in previously learned patterns, thereby reducing the time it takes you to learn a new piece of music. This also comes in handy when sight reading. Musicians who sight read well do so because they learn basic patterns that can be quickly plugged into a work once a scale passage is identified. But if you haven't learned basic scale patterns, this tool is not at your disposal. Now, in high school, my scales were on autopilot, and I could never understand why they sounded better at home than they did in a competition or a lesson. And by autopilot, I simply mean I kind of did it by feel. So if I was doing the E major scale, I kind of knew the basic pattern. I knew that there was going to be a second valve thrown in there and a 2-3 somewhere, and I would just try to go purely on muscle memory. This always landed me in trouble, and I could not understand why my scales were so inconsistent. It wasn't until I was in college that they really came into focus. I had seriously considered being a piano major in college and took applied piano my freshman year. My professor was old school, and each lesson was at least 50% technique. We went through all major scales and all 3 forms of the minors, plus arpeggios, 4 octaves, and it was that year that my scales progressed from feeling like a game of Russian roulette and never knowing whether I was going to hit the scale correctly to an exact science where I knew exactly what note I was on and what note I was going to have to play next. One thing that really clicked with me was to visualize the keyboard. So I see the keyboard in my mind when playing scales. Now this is a plug for studying piano. I can't stress enough how much my piano background has helped me with playing in all keys and sight reading. Let's face it, sight reading on trumpet is ridiculously easy when compared to sight reading on piano. I mean, you have only 1 line of music on trumpet. On piano, you've got 2 staves and many more notes to play at the same time. If you've never studied piano and you're a serious musician, I strongly encourage you to study piano because it will be extremely helpful for your trumpet playing and many aspects of your trumpet playing. Now, regardless of whether or not you can visualize the keyboard while playing, you have to get to the point that you can think the note names of the scale in your head while playing it. This will take your scales to the next level and prevent you from playing on autopilot, which is what I did in high school. You need to remember that autopilot fails when you're under pressure. If you're used to playing on autopilot, when you encounter the actual performance, your brain will kick in and it will want to know exactly what you're doing, but you will have no idea because you've been playing on autopilot. So I encourage students to practice scales like this: A flat, B flat, C, D flat, F, G, A flat. This is a great way to solidify your fingering and your brain connection. Now, if you can easily finger these notes while saying the names of the ascending and the descending part of the scale, then your scale will quickly become solid as a rock. We tend to ignore descending, as I've mentioned before, so don't forget that descending part. Let's say we're doing A flat scale: A flat, G, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, A flat, G, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, D flat. Another way to practice scales, to solidify them, is to switch up the pattern. I have several different patterns I use, and I alternate patterns from day to day. Working the scale with various exercises will help you perfect each key. The last thing I'd like to emphasize is that my scales improved hugely when I incorporated them into my daily warm-up. In college, I added them to the end of my warm-up routine, and I alternated between major, 3 forms of the minor, whole tones, and chromatic scales. Adding these to the end of my warm-up had the effect of normalizing each key. Scales were no longer a thing to stress over, but simply a warm-up action. Incidentally, and as an aside, adding something you consider challenging to your daily warm-up routine is a great way to take the edge off the thing. For example, I added Petrushka's Ballerina's Dance to my daily warm-up at one point, which really helped take the stress out of that excerpt. It desensitized me and helped remove the nerves that can kick in on various solos. Something to keep in mind for your own practice. So try these techniques at home when working on scales. Once you feel equally at ease playing in the key of C sharp major, as you do in E flat natural minor, you'll know you're well on your way to becoming very good at scales.